Hey, I'm Jam,
Hey, I'm Jason.
and we're back. Podcast for Your Life.
Yeah.
We've got a new episode today, and we've got more coming soon as well. So won't
can't
wait too long. But today, we'll be talking about something a little bit primordial.
Primordial Leo.
Instincts.
Instincts. This is a random topic.
Yeah, it's a little interesting. What made you think... So Jason actually suggested this one. What made this come to mind, Jason?
Well, as you know, we just had a child a month ago.
Yep.
And it's been interesting watching a little human, just like observing certain things about them as they're like continuing to grow.
Yeah.
And like, what do they already know? Like, what is something that they're already doing, like that we didn't have to teach them?
Yeah.
And just really interesting to see some things. So, and I can get into that more later on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like way cooler to go into something like instinct, which is more broad, instead of just like babies for your life.
Yeah, we, like I said, we've said before, I'm definitely not a professional, so
Yeah.
it's going to be probably a couple decades before we do babies.
You're right.
If podcasts
It'll
are
be
still
like this
around.
exhaustive episode where it's like, okay, finally I've got every bit of knowledge that anyone could have about
eight
babies.
kids later. I'm ready.
Okay, so instincts. Jason, what are instincts? What's your best way of defining that word?
I think instincts are like these things that we do or things that we know that require little conscious learning.
Yeah. So there's a subconsciousness to it.
There's like a reactionary sort of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, wait, why am I even doing that? Or why am I, why would I even think that? Or maybe not so much think, but maybe it's more like a physical reaction of some sort.
Yeah.
Like I think of like, when I think of instincts, I think of, you creep up on somebody and then you surprise them and they kind of jump or they, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
You've got reaction kind of thing.
It's like, why don't they just be like, turn around calmly and be like, oh, hello, I didn't see you there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it always makes me think of, the word instincts makes me think of animals. Not that we don't also have those, but just the sense that like there's something very, very like just a part of our subconscious and even a part of animals who they don't have sentience that like helps kind of guide some decisions and avoid threats or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is fascinating to like think about it in the human context where we have still some of those instincts, even though we are very, very different from animals.
Yeah, and I think instincts are also closely tied to survival. I think you kind of just mentioned that a little bit, where with animals, like if a deer is in the wild and it like just kind of has this weird sense, it's like, well, it doesn't have binoculars. It can't see this puma about to come out of the bush and pounce on it, but it just gets this like, wait, something's wrong here, So I think a lot of the role that instincts play are in one, survival, whether it's an animal or whether it's a creature like a human being.
Yeah.
Survival.
This is like very Planet Earth, very Discovery Channel.
Minus the science.
Yeah. It's like,
I love every episode we're just like, oh yeah, we know about this, minus the science.
yeah. Well, it's like, I really love science, and I think I'm the type of person that thinks about things scientifically for the most part without actually having any of the education to back it. So it's like I'm bent toward some rationalistic understanding.
Sure.
And yet here I am grasping at straws, making up my own explanations scientifically. I'm like, the science maybe would say something like this.
It's kind of like, it's how like the early humans probably viewed things. Like they probably had time to think and talk about things like instincts. Like, oh, why do you jump every time I scare you when I come around that rock with the deer meat,
Or was it not weird for a long time? Because like instincts, so think about early humans. Like if you reacted really strongly when a noise happened or whatever, it probably made way more sense, because think about it. Like you actually had a pretty serious chance of getting killed by some animal.
Sure,
back in the day. Now it's weird. Back then, if someone jumped when you scared them, they would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were going to think I was a bear or whatever. Yeah. But nowadays, if you scare somebody, there's a lot less like understanding or reason there. It's like people getting killed by wild animals still happens, but it's not like an everyday fear,
Sure, and we probably still, like, if we were to go into the wild, we probably still would have those.
Yeah,
and I think
that's true.
That's kind of brings us to our next point is, like, our instincts learned, or are they something that we just are like born with and we always have? Because like I think especially nowadays, because we're not like living in the wilderness, like we have houses and we have neighborhoods and stuff, so we don't like, I don't know about you, but I wake up every day and I don't really think about am I going to get attacked by a wild bear today? You know, I can just get in my car and not have to worry about that. But I think some of the reasons why, if we were to go to a park or a national park that has bears that we knew about, I think there's something about like we've learned that bears can do harm to humans some point along the way. And thus our instincts kick in of I need to be aware of bears or alert for bears, you know? So that to me is like it's a learned instinct, even though it probably comes from thousands of years of if you see a bear in the wild, it might kill you because it's stronger than you. Or so see, it's like some survival instincts seem like they're learned versus, you know, this person who just was born and then 20 years later they come across this furry beast and they're like, oh, what's this? And then they.
So what do you think is more likely? Like right now, which explanation do you think makes more sense? That they're mostly learned or that they are biological or something?
I think it depends. I would say.
Because I have an opinion, but I want you to go first.
I think that instincts are like, I'm going to go on a limb. This isn't scientific again, but I think they're about at least 50-50, if not 75% learned versus 25%
interesting.
Natural.
Yeah.
So like our kid has some natural instincts to be able to, like when babies first come out, they're quickly able to breastfeed within the first couple hours of being born. It's an important connection for the mom and the baby. But they also already know how to suck. And it's like, how do they, you know, they literally have not been doing anything for the past 9 months besides growing in a womb. How do they know how to like drink from the mom at this point? So that to me is like, okay, that's like built in. It's like a built-in plug and play sort of a deal.
Right.
So that to me is like a natural
plug and play
instinct. Yeah. So that, but then I think there are a lot of things that in life that are learned.
See, I think of it like, I think it's like 98% biological, like innate instinct. And I don't, neither of us have any backing for this, but this is just like kind of how I've thought of it, especially since you first brought up the topic and I've been kind of trying to collect some thoughts on it. But that there are, just like every other animal, we have like all this DNA over time of generations of humans who have experienced crazy different deaths or have avoided death in some way. There's like that genetic memory that people kind of talk about that's not like really, really specific. It's not like we could dig in there and find out, oh, how'd my, you know, great ancestor die or whatever. Not like that, but just that if you kind of take the perspective of like, okay, there's a survival element. These species or whatever survive because of XYZ. And so those things get passed along.
Oh, interesting.
And so my thought is that it's interesting. I think that's the case, 98% or something like that.
Sure.
But it's interesting to me to now think about that at the same time as our very, very rational, like modern, postmodernist or whatever society now, because the example that comes to mind is like, okay, on the instinctual level, I am scared of heights to some degree. And on the rational level, if I'm like rock climbing at a center or like I'm ziplining at some camp or something like that, I know that I'm like secured in. I know that my harness is like tested and that there's like lawsuits about that stuff. So like it's important. Like people actually care about making those things fully safe. And I know I don't like weigh a lot and I'm not like putting on crazy amount of strain. But there's still this instinct part of me that's like,
I could die.
Heights are bad, and humans die from like long falls.
Yeah, high heights. Yeah.
So it's like there's a human part of me that's like, wait a second, this is hitting a nerve a little bit. Like it's like a memory of like typically humans on their own without technology can't actually survive this stuff.
When would you say that you like had that recognition of, okay, if I fall from this side, I could hurt myself?
Yeah,
because that's like the baseline, like, you know, thinking that your brain has. How old would you say you were when you like first had that, like, whoa, if I jump off this playground, that's really high?
In my mind, I feel like I've always had it. Like I don't know that I've ever really taken any risks in that regard, but obviously some people do. So maybe some people don't have that level of instinct, or they just don't have. They have less fear, which could be also a good thing. But I feel like I've always been really pretty risk averse, and a lot of those physical situations. But that's just one example of an instinct. But I think like
that's a good one though. What about like a common one I've heard is like don't touch the stove because it's really hot and you'll hurt yourself. And then you obviously as a kid probably don't touch the stove, but somewhere along the way you might touch it and burn yourself, or burn yourself in another way, and then say, okay, that toaster oven pan was really hot, and the stove is similar in heat. So if I touch the stove, I will also feel this pain. Like we're breaking down like the mental connecting the dots, things that are going on. But that would go back to my status of how I think it's learned. You see how it's like. But it's like it's interesting because it's learned, but then your like natural instincts kick in of like I need to avoid pain, therefore I will not jump off this.
You're right, and it's avoiding pain though. Like no one's teaching you that pain is bad.
Right,
they're just teaching you ways to avoid it. So it's like the instinct at the root of all that is
that's it. Yeah,
no one had to tell you that pain was bad. You're like, oh yeah, I don't want to be in pain. Like no one had to convince you that was the thing that you should be like motivated about. It's like it's just there.
Yep, you're right.
But I do think
the
2%. Yeah.
Or I guess the 98%. That's good. It is interesting how, kind of along those lines, I've heard that adrenaline makes the body move faster. So like when they talk about an adrenaline rush, it's somehow like you're more alert and you can do things quicker, which is really interesting because those are natural. Those are like natural reactions. Like when you're scared, I think the reason why people jump is because their body's responding to this kind of fear of I don't want to be in danger or something.
And your heart immediately starts pumping more. Yeah. It's like that happens and we kind of associate it with like just being nervous or whatever. But like your body's literally trying to do something. It's like, oh, let's get more blood to like the rest of the body so that we can do whatever we need to do. And get
ready to rumble.
Yeah. But there is like that biological component where even without us consciously doing it, our body's reacting to stuff. Like not just in our brain, but like organs start doing stuff. Like, all right, heart, let's go for it. Let's pump more blood or whatever.
Yeah. Instincts. Organs do things. Well, do you have any other thoughts, Jim?
Verdict wise, I feel like instincts are good and they keep us alive.
Dude.
And I kind of don't think that there's any reason that we should be against them.
Sure. Yeah. I'm going to side with you on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instincts. It's what keeps you alive.
Instincts. Let's keep this human being thing going. Yeah, but then there is that element of like we are raging against our instincts in a lot of ways. So it's like, okay, yeah, like we get this weird fear of heights or something like that, or any sort of thrill, but then we lean into it sometimes. Like there's a serious group of humans that lean into that thrill, almost to like rage against the instincts.
But I think it's more of a calculated risk.
Yes.
Because you're saying, I'm willing to take the risk, even though my body says like, hey, if the harness snaps loose, I'm dead. I'm just going to splat on this, bottom of this cliff valley or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's a calculated risk where it's like, okay, I think this, safety equipment is going to protect me. Therefore, it minimizes the natural instinct to react to no.
Yeah.
And it increases the pursuit of this could be a, emotional high or whatever. Or whatever the body is pursuing at that point. So.
I have a last thought on that.
Yeah.
And then we've got a whole other minute, So a last thought is I watched the documentary Free Solo.
Me too.
You did?
Yeah.
Have we talked about it?
No.
Oh, man. Okay, we'll
should.
We'll do more offline. But that element, there's a part of it where they like do some scans on his brain and just his general like fear reaction.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It's just way less.
Yeah.
Like his nervousness in the face of like some sort of risk or fear.
Yeah.
It's just, he doesn't feel it as strongly.
Yeah.
And it's not because he trained it that way.
Right.
It just somehow naturally
is it
he
though?
Doesn't feel.
Or is it learned?
No, I think they said like this is not the kind of thing you can affect. Like it's not the kind of thing that you could change.
Oh, interesting.
In your actual. Yeah.
Wow.
But so he just has a lot less aversion to risks and thrill. And so him being a free solo climber,
Makes
no
sense.
ropes on these super tall cliffs.
Yeah.
He's leaning into that thrill, but he also has less of a like governor on that fear.
Interesting. Sounds like you have to be a certain person.
Yeah. Crazy.
This is so crazy.
Well, my gut's telling me that we should close this episode out. Everyone, thanks so much for listening. And as always, you can submit topics to us. Facebook, email, whatever. You know how to do it. And we'll see you guys soon.